even know his name. I'm just going to refer to him as Huey Lewis because.
No, did he have a name? It's
He
Huey.
didn't. No,
I'm sure Memory Alpha would know what it is.
It
but-
would do.
Actually, let's check. Hold on.
I
You
bet
say
you he
that.
doesn't. I bet you he doesn't.
Welcome to Star Trek Trek. We're going to talk about A Man Alone, which we've just finished watching. And oh my word, yeah, who was that guy? Was it
Huey Lewis.
It's
it
Huey Lewis. I'm telling you.
Zara?
That name was never spoken in the episode. I guarantee you. That comes from the script.
Hang on. Edward Lawrence Albert? Yeah, that's it. Zarya.
Yeah, sure.
There he is.
Whatever.
Anyway, yes, welcome. We're going to talk about A Man Alone, the third episode of Deep Space. No, the fourth episode of Deep Space Nine. My apologies. Where Odo gets pinned for a crime that only he could have committed, or could he? Could he, guys? Where do we start with this one? Like,
Okay, so you know, I'm gonna take the lead on this, right? Because this is a concept that is as old as detective fiction, right? Locked room mystery. Oh, the room was locked. We know for a fact it was only open at XYZ time and closed at XYZ time. No one could have possibly committed. Guess what? The answer to that question has to be fucking good. It can't be, oh, well, there was just another door no one knew about, because that sucks, right? You read that at the end of the end of the detective novel or the end of the episode, and you go, what? That was the answer? There was just a door you didn't know about? Fuck off. And this is an especially bad locked room mystery, because the mystery almost doesn't even matter. They immediately dispense with the, no, it couldn't have possibly been anyone but Odo. Even though the murder takes place on a holodeck. Turn the safety protocols off, add knife to masseuse's hands, stab, oh look, I committed a murder without being in the room, in a locked room. What a mystery. Like, sorry, DS9 writers, I'm sorry you forgot what the holodeck actually does.
This feels like the episode wasn't written for the murder, but all the drama between. Like, this feels like the murder was just incidental.
Yeah, it was so scintillating.
But it was to do with like the drama and that, and the tiny bit of Bashir science to kind of go, it was a cloud all along, you know, and have his moments of awkwardly creeping on Jadzia and then actually kind of being useful for once. But yeah, it did feel like the murder was kind of the least thought out part of this episode for sure.
3 or 4 weekends ago, I went to an escape room with some friends, and it was a 2-room escape room. So
did you clone yourself to get out of it?
You get the clues, and you have to find your way out. So we got the clues. We spent about 20 minutes, opened the door into the second room, and there's like stuff written all over the wall. There's a safe over there. Like, ooh, how can we figure it out? And one of the friends goes over and opens the door to escape, and it was just unlocked. They're like, is this supposed to be this way? And the voice comes through the wall. Oh, no, sorry, we'll reset that afterwards. Just try to figure out the clues. There was more suspense in that escape room than there was in this episode. And it was infinitely more satisfying to go through the clues than this episode was. So,
okay, so this episode, if you want to go start pointing some blame, this episode was written a combination of Michael Piller, who I believe was primarily doing the teleplay, and Gerald Sanford, who. And hey, guess what? This was his only writing credit on Deep Space Nine.
I wonder why they didn't call him back.
We get that's a familiar theme with a lot of these early episodes that people don't quite like. It was directed by Paul Lynch, who also directed The Naked Now, 11001001, The First Duty, and A Matter of Time, and a few other DS9 episodes that will come up. I'm sure we'll mention as it goes forward. But yeah, this is
You know what? I can't believe I'm saying this. I liked the Keiko storyline the best out of everything in this episode because it was relatable.
Yeah,
like as a guy who's been married, it was very relatable. Yeah.
It has some merit to it because this was also, if I believe, this second episode they shot in sequential order when they're doing DS9, so they're still getting their footing, figuring everything out. Even though everybody shits on Keiko, rightfully so, it does make sense to kind of say, okay, we're in this giant space station far away. There's some kids on it. Surely you've got to have like a school or something because the kids otherwise are running around putting fleas on people. So, you know, let's see what happens. That's a good little subplot.
Fleas that turn them orange and blue.
Yes. The problem is the
It's very
pacing.
Star
You
Wars
could
thing
have
to happen.
removed that whole subplot and given that time to things that needed to be fleshed out with the main plot, made it infinitely better. But
Well,
instead, we just kind of go.
So one of the parts of writing this episode, Michael Piller wanted a kind of an ABC structure to this. They wanted to experiment with having a more, almost a kind of, we're on a station, things happen at the same time all at once. Like, we want to see what that looks like in the focus of the shows. And originally they wanted to kind of do it almost in a kind of lot of vignette style, like 20 short stories about Springfield and have them darting about here and there. And I think eventually they went for about 7-8 ideas and settled on the 3.
You know what the problem is?
Go on.
The problem is that in that 20 vignettes about Springfield, whatever, all of those stories were interesting.
Well, no, I mean...
They briefly... We saw a glimpse of them getting it right when they were on the promenade. They showed the Jake Nog stuff, and then without a cut, we intersperse the other story, and then we go back to them, and like directorially, that was fine. That was an interesting way to break things up without your standard.
It's a good use of the set, but it's like... So part of the problem is that you can really tell this is early DS9 because they actually, literally, hone in on every single wrong aspect they possibly could. Like, you have a scene where Odo and Quark are in a room talking and sniping at each other, and they show the chemistry that Shimmerman and Auberjonois are gonna, like, showcase for the next 7 years, and then it's immediately over, and we skip over to, like, boring crowd drama. We have like hints of the Odo Kira relationship that come up and then are summarily dismissed so that Bashir can creep on Jadzia. Like, they are throwing out every idea they can, and then someone, I'm guessing the Sanford guy because he never came back, was like, I want to focus on the parts that everyone hates. It's like,
I can only
focus on the parts that are interesting, dipshit.
I think with I think with the Bashir Dak stuff, and it was a major misstep because I think what they intended to do was establish that a little bit of continuity to say yes, she was Curzon, yes, it's weird when the relationships go through, and how her dealing with Cisco and that kind of things, but they, instead of doing it through the focus of Cisco and having a conversation, which they did a bit of, they did it through the focus of Bashir being a creepy sort of hopeless romantic, but not quite coming across on the right way. But then when actually Bashir is kind of competent in the episode, you don't really take it seriously enough because you're like, well, this doofus, like...
Oh yeah, you don't even get a payoff of Jadzia being like, oh, well done, Julian, you managed to solve the problem. It's
exactly.
Just like,
maybe I will have that drink with you.
Everything is in service of this shitty plot. Everything is in service of the shitty plot because they want to keep Jadzia unavailable. That's weird.
As hard as it was to watch the Bashir Dak stuff, that was also like the second most relatable, not personally, mind you, but relatable. Like, if you've ever like going online and read about cringy stuff, relationship stuff, or whatever, like you see the story a million times, and so you're like, yeah, or you have a friend that like will tell you about a date when I'm like, bro, I'm cringing, I wasn't even there. So it's like people do stupid stuff like that. They misstep all the time. And it can be really hard to show a healthy male-female relationship, which thank God is what we get with Cisco and Dax pretty much through the whole 7 years. It's like Cisco I know Avery Brooks has gotten some guff for like the set isn't quite as happy-go-lucky as other show sets because he set the tone.
He took it very seriously, yeah.
Yeah, but we got the stuff with him and Dax and the stuff with him and Jake are like two of the best relationships in all of Star Trek. Both a father-son, which we don't always get to see, and then male-female, which we don't always get to see. So, credit to him for those two things for the 7 years, which really helped anchor the show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is just everything about this is a misfire for me. Like, the only parts that have any, like, real merit are usually just people sitting down and talking about things that have nothing to do with the episode. Like, I enjoy like Cisco and Dax talking to each other. I enjoy like Keiko and like O'Brien like getting to have like a mild like interesting thing about, look, it's an older customer with the bell, and like, you're like, here, my Molly's here to wish you luck. It's like, that's cute. Yeah. Again, doesn't really have anything to do with the episode. Like,
it's the strength of the 24 episode era that you get to do stuff like that you really can't anymore. So,
I suppose the other part I have a problem with is that, so the ABC plot structure, right? that's a classic for Star Trek. Like all of classic Star Trek does that, and it still kind of does in some of the newer seasons, depending on the approach you go with it. Usually, there is at least an attempt to make the stories dovetail together, so they have like a similar moral message, or there is a theme to the episode. Like, this is an episode about misunderstanding. This is an episode about approaching people who are unlike you. This is a episode about going past prejudice. If I asked you what this episode is actually about, you can't tell me because this episode isn't about anything.
Well, like you said, the prejudice was actually a big part of it, which they didn't even resolve with like the Bajorans all hating Odo. No. But then at the end they say no one apologized. So we do get a payoff with again Keiko carrying the fucking episode. Keiko convinces Rom to bring his child into the school. So it's like, okay, finally a resolution of the episode. So they did loosely structured around prejudices, but then they only gave you half a payoff. So
that wasn't Rom yet. That was his cousin Ron.
Yeah. Let's address that. That was definitely the most Rom. Like, I think a couple of things, like characters hadn't been fully fleshed out and decided at this point. Like, no one was expecting Max to come back and reprise Rom. Well, maybe they were, but they hadn't kind of fleshed out the kind of the doofy brother instead of the sort of like, I am the savvy underpinning businessman that I want my son to be, and I know everything. He's far too cocky, far too confident in this. But yeah, it was slightly unsettling, given that you know how he ends up.
I think it's one of those.
No, I was gonna say, and Odo's makeup too. But let's So let's come back to that.
Yeah, I think the part of the reason why no one actually gives a shit about how much of a change in personality Rom goes through is because this current personality is like nothing. There's nothing to it. Yeah. It's just a Ferengi character that might as well be like a TNG thing. What he becomes later is so much more entertaining and so much more fun and vibrant and part of a wider tapestry of like Ferengi culture and an idea of what happens when a guy's like a good dude but he's just a screw up, right? Like that's more interesting than I'm a typical Ferengi and I don't want him learning from women. It's like, okay, cool, that's fine as an antagonistic force. Or like like a bumbling dipshit in like a comedy of errors, right? But as a supporting character that you want around for a while, there's just not enough material to sustain a 7-season show. They absolutely made completely the right choice to pivot to Max Grodinchik's obvious comedic talents, none of which are on display here. Again, it's that problem of you can see the elements that would normally be part of a really good DS9 episode be completely de-emphasized here. It's
the only
like
thing
having
that
a number saying all the numbers are wrong.
the only thing he needed to be a TNG Ferengi was a laser whip, and then it would have been
oh man,
right there.
Bring back the whips.
He just goes into like Keiko's schoolroom, and he's just like, "Your human appearances once again shock us."
I will disagree a little bit. I think it was a more unique take than what you're giving credit for, because the TNG Ferengi were a lot more one note, where they were more like shrews and the nervous energy and stuff. And I don't think he was a little more confident in his abilities and a little more business oriented, where TNG Ferengi were just like hijinks oriented, it felt like. So
true.
And revenge, yeah. I think it shows the difference between like Ferengi on a starship to Ferengi on civilian stuff. I think like the Ferengi command starships are a little bit more. Well, maybe that. Oh, we're going into a deep lore discussion. Maybe we can save for something else.
I don't want to talk about the actual episode.
Yeah. So yeah, Odo's actual plotline here of being persecuted for a crime he didn't commit out of really freaking nowhere was, I think, part of the reason this was presented was to kind of establish Odo's desire for. He's like, I want to have justice. I don't care about your rules. I obey the law. I am Judge Dredd. This is my station. I will do it as I please. And that kind of established the difference between Starfleet and Odo. But they very quickly drop that after that conversation with Cisco, and Odo just kind of gets swept along until the very end. It doesn't. Nothing really he doesn't influence his own.
He doesn't solve the crime.
No.
He doesn't leverage his unique abilities or history on the station to solve the problem with the crowd. He just kind of stands there and says, and then doesn't do it.
Doesn't even do that. His voice is really weird in this episode as well. Like he hasn't quite got his gruffness yet. He hasn't developed the quack.
Well, Odo's kind of a weird character because he's always 2 steps ahead of the bad guys usually, especially Quark. Except there's occasions where he just fucking gives up out of nowhere. Like a couple times where Starfleet tries to put someone else in charge, and he goes to Sisko and quits immediately. And Sisko's like, "No, you can't quit." He's like, "You're under contract. You can't quit yet."
It's like the fifth
so it's like
time
if he
this
doesn't
week.
get his way, if he doesn't figure it out immediately, he just quits. And so he does that like 3 or 4 times in the show. But the rest of the
What's
time,
that,
he's
Commander?
usually
You want to change the color of the pencils we use? I quit. I resign. I won't
That
stand
week
for
soup
it.
you're drinking? I quit. I've had enough of this Federation bureaucracy.
Then here he just goes up to Cisco. He's like, "Dude, you don't know me. I could be a murderer.
was quite
How
a cool
dare you
moment.
stick up for me."
I did like that.
What an incredible, convincing like thing. It's like, hey, I'm the guy who could potentially help you out here. I probably did it.
But I
Plus, he
like.
points-
Go on.
He points the finger at himself immediately when they're like in sickbay trying to figure out. He's like, or it could be a changeling, and they're like, Odo, you're literally the only changeling we've ever encountered, right? Yeah, but it could be a different changeling.
I was in my
He lives for
bucket.
the drama.
so-
He wants it.
Yeah.
He needs the drama.
You kind of, he is an attention whore for that kind of stuff. Is like, I need something. Nothing but Cardassians running after like voles and or the odd Ferengi. Now something interesting's happened, and I want to be the victim.
Oh, he loved watching Miles and Keiko argue. He was just like,
yeah.
"Oh,
Oh yeah, the whole speech at the beginning with the like compromise. You know.
I know he had all the
doesn't feel like
disdain.
Odo.
He had all the disdain of a multi-jilted lover, except that he's never had a relationship before.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
we
like,
know
where's
for
all
a
this
fact
bitterness
coupled.
coming from?
Like, I know that you, Jellyman, you probably haven't even bothered to morph a dick in this current body, and it's like,
You there, Jellyman? Come over
Say
here.
that for the pre-show stars. Come on.
like, he probably doesn't even have a dick, and yet he's like talking about domestic bliss. Well, like he's experienced it. It's like, bro, shut the fuck up. You're about to get accused of murder. Why don't you focus on something important?
All right, how about the?
No,
Go on.
he's about to be accused of murder by himself. That's an important distinction.
So can I express my utter disdain at the '80s band member leader
Huey
of the
Lewis guy.
Huey Lewis in the news? What a fucking
I
tool!
said that, and you guys just like glommed onto it instantly.
Bass player
Partly
level
because this guy
42.
didn't get a fucking name. That didn't.
He has no personality trait except angry Huey Lewis. So
But he was awful. Like, just as a character, he's absolutely terrible. Like, he was just there to point the finger, go, haha, but I've got the moral high ground because I'm a Bajoran. Like,
Like,
bloody
you know what?
shifter.
I said Twin Peaks. It's because in Twin Peaks, where it's like everything is like slightly heightened to weirdness, that kind of character would be funny and like good to riff on. But here it's just like, dude, what the hell? Why you like this? What do you even do? Are you employed? Do
No,
you
he just
live on
hangs
the
about.
station? Do you just like live to stir up drama? Like next
Noted
week you're gonna be
Bajoran.
accusing, noted Bajoran. Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm noted for what being noted.
Did you know that the actor actually has a Golden Globe for most promising male newcomer in a production called Butterflies Are Free? There you go.
Sorry.
So the problem with this guy is multi-layered. It feels like they did a blind casting just based on like audio tapes sent in, because he's supposed to be angry and like leading a revolt, and he's in the front row saying that evil shifter, and he's like got this voice going on. It's like that doesn't fit what your emotion is supposed to be at all. At a glance, it looks like the prosthetic. It was applied fine, but it looks like a guy wearing a prosthetic. You know what I mean? Like you can
He
tell
doesn't
he's
wear it like
Bajoran.
Kira. He doesn't wear it like Kira, where you believe that's her face. Yeah.
Did you know he played
Yeah,
Mr. Collins
it's-
on the series Power Rangers Time Force?
Oh my god, he did! Shit!
Oh, you know that?
I watched that when I was a kid. I wondered why he looked familiar.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my god!
I didn't realise I was actually going to make a connection there, but there you are.
No, yeah, he's the
I'll
dad
get
of the
paid
Red
for
Ranger.
therapy,
Oh my god! Oh, my brain hurts from hearing that.
Oh. And his wife was in an episode of the original series.
Wow.
About
That's,
nepotism.
Wow. Well, he's dead now, so it's okay.
there you go.
Okay.
He sadly
You'll
passed,
never see this.
sadly passed away in 2006, killed by his own clone, probably. But sorry, massive disrespectful comment over there. No, let's
Too
go
soon. Too soon.
Can we?
Yeah, I can honestly It's the first time I've laughed at a Star Trek alum's death, and I feel so bad about it.
Oh dear, we're terrible people all going to hell. How about the final resolution when they work out, oh my god, it's a clone, and Odo confronts his would-be very highly suspicious Jedi, Sith
You mean
Lord.
Lemonade?
Yeah, what the fuck was that name? Hello, my darlings. I am Lemonade S. I am here to purchase some fine silk.
They were playing Scrabble.
Bajoran still. He's still wearing the stupid Scooby-Doo rubber mask of like a Bajoran. Why the fuck don't you have a Bajoran name, dipshit?
They were playing Scrabble in the writer's room. They're like, fuck, we gotta come up with a name for this guy. And he just looked down at his palette full of letters. He goes, okay, here you go.
Just picked up some cleaner.
Lemonade S or Kanubi? Like what?
Lemonade S will clean and scrub toilets and clean 99% of germs.
With a wonderful lemonade scent.
Oh no.
Dude, that rubber mask obviously was like the best mask ever produced because there's no imperfections, like the cheek muscles
it's
are moving
Mission
and everything.
Impossible level tech. Yeah, totally.
And then it just pulls off.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
That was
That is
so
like
bad.
Spanish soap opera level of like, okay, yeah,
It's
whatever.
It's literally Scooby-Doo. They pulls the mask off at the end, and oh my god.
I would have gotten away with it too if you weren't for you pesky Federation Frontier Medicine doctors.
And even better or worse than that is right after he pulls off the mask, that's it.
Yeah, that end of episode.
Yeah, there's no epilogue. What?
Yeah. Odo didn't get any
Odo was
apologies.
not apologized to.
Yeah.
Bye.
Like, you know what could have helped redeem this episode even a little bit if there had been like Odo in the bar at Quarks, and he's just like looming over the people who were accusing him, and he's going, "I could kill you, you know. No one would believe that I would do it twice.
No.
I couldn't be falsely accused twice in a row. I'm just dying to make your acquaintance." Like,
they had the
that's
best.
That'd been hilarious.
They had the best opportunity to start the best running joke ever. Is just have kind of like that scene, but just like have the camera come in and Odo go, "Thank you for your apology, Morn," and then walk off. And Morn just nods.
Yeah, that'd be good.
By the way, Morn got so much screen time in this. You saw him at the bar a couple times. You saw him walking away from Odo as like the last sign that, okay, people are turning on him. You see him walking behind people on the promenade. I think it's Bashir and Dax walking. You just see like Morn going into the Bajoran church behind them. So he was on screen like a lot in this episode.
He's part of the he was part of the group that was raging against Odo.
Yeah.
He was there, pitchfork in hand.
He shows up at the
He just
revolt,
wanted to be
too.
part of the group, I guess.
Even
Dude,
mournfully
poor Morn.
walked
He has
away
no
from him.
friends. He just wants to fit in with everyone.
I just wanted to belong.
So here's an ethical dilemma for you. So, they found the evidence that they made a clone, and they took all these tissue samples and everything, and they grew a new Ibudan in the flesh. What happened to that clone? Like, did they grow it and then let him loose into the world and go, bye-bye, you're technically the third iteration of this person that's been accused of murder and then murdered?
No, wait, you know what? He went to be taught at Keiko's school.
No, that would have been nice. If we just come in, like, really simple. Like,
Just like a giant guy in a rumpus.
Played by Robin Williams.
Oh, no, not Jack.
oh, dear.
God damn it.
Yeah, what happened to that? Like, because they can't take out and then kill it because...
It's also,
Yeah.
it's a clone of a murdering scoundrel too. So it's like you're gonna try to reinstitutionalize this or rehabilitate.
No,
this
you
guy, or
hang
like
them
what?
both on the same gallows, clearly.
Promenade's a big place. They probably have a gallows.
all right.
There.
Best and worst moments. I'm going to do you for both this time.
Bajorans, of course they do.
Stars, give me your best moment, please.
Oh, God, is there any? Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, no, you know what? I have it. So, I'm gonna give credit to Sirach Lofton because his line read of when Cisco and Jake are going back into their room, and he's about to have that conversation about like hanging out with Nog, who he doesn't approve of, and then Sirok just gives this great. I thought you didn't want to talk about that, while he's just like quickly leaving the room as this guy to chase after him. It's like that was hilarious and probably the best line read and the most I enjoyed the scene in the entire episode. So credit to Sirok Lofton, you were a true like 2-scene wonder in this. Like you were probably the most interesting part of it. Worst, everything else. But I have to give credit to Bashir for that creepy smile he was giving as like Cisco was explaining that like story about Dax, and he was just like,
"Oh God, yeah, they were hanging on it,
yeah." And then they were naked, and Cisco's like, "No, you fucking weirdo."
And then what?
2 7-foot twins.
Frank,
So
best and worst moment.
I hope I don't steal this. Best, I'm going to say the little snippet where we see what we're going to see for the next 6 years, not 7, spoilers, of the relationship of Ben and Jadzia / Curzon having a conversation, and you get that exposition and that backstory, but you see the chemistry between the actors, and you see the not serious, not, proper Ben Sisko, but the relaxed hanging out on the bar, which is weird. Being a man of the people with his crew, with his staff, and being relaxed in this very tense environment. I like that because it shows there's an off-duty aspect, which we kind of got in TNG when they go play poker or they go hang out like in the holodeck or something, but they always go off planet, and here we're here. So, that was nice to see that. Worst part, oh my God. I'm not going to steal.
Don't say the mask.
I'm not going to steal yours. I almost want to say second best part, also worst part, is poor Miles. Miles O'Brien must suffer having an argument with his wife to where she's fed up with his shit and his explanation, and he's like telling her, no, come back here, sit down, and he does that twice. She gets up to leave and comes right back and sits down, and every fucking person on this space station is just sitting there gawking at him and laughing, and they're like, badge communicator, hey Kira, get down here. Like, everybody knows it's on the newsletter throughout the station that afternoon. It's like, hey, this guy, he's a bitch, I felt bad that we're immediately writing like, hey, here's a guy from TNG, by the way, his marriage sucks and she sucks. It's a tired trope. It's a true trope, but I didn't want to steal.
It's a big boomer storyline.
Yeah.
The whole,
Auto.
Which you got to give it its props, because they are both trying to come to a compromise somehow. So it's
like
not
I said,
like one
it's
is
probably
completely...
the other best part of the episode is like that's actually competent and irrelevant and feels like it could happen.
My best moment is going to ironically butt up against Star's worst moment. I like when Sisko is telling these stories to Bashir and the Simpsons. Like, pause. You can see the exact moment where Sisko realizes two things. One, he's telling this very racy story to his subordinate, which, he's still looking. He's new to this post. He's still looking for friends, and he kind of realizes Bashir's not going to be the one for the next.
I don't need to associate with you.
Right. And then the other part, of course, which is tragic, is that he's lost his best friend. And even though he has her / him in some capacity, like, he'll never get those moments back. And so he kind of pauses and realizes, at least from my understanding, he realizes both things at once. And I felt bad for the guy. So I thought he played that well. Worst moment's fucking rubber mask. Guys, it's so bad. Not only because it's completely unbelievable, because we see him like a normal face. It's not like he looked like he might have been in prosthetics or whatever. Yeah, it's so bad. And then, of course, everyone knows Scooby-Doo's been out for a while at that point. Everyone knows they just pull the mask. It's so bad. It's a cliche, and it's not even executed well. It's bad. It's real bad.
Captain Idol.
I'm going to start with my worst, and hip to be square, too arrogant for this promenade was definitely fucking Edward Lawrence Albert's Zaya, or whatever the fuck his name was just so infuriatingly smug, and just what a dick. just that moment, like when you say, like with Stars, you mentioned it when they're on the ops and they're all there and the whole gang of them just like, you know, West Side Story finger snap their way back to the turbo lift. Like it's very kind of like his whole energy just made me think combination of just like unemployed 80s businessman just trying to do something to get attention. It was I hated that.
Yeah, no, you didn't see it, but he's gonna feature in They Live as a secondary antagonist.
They were apparently considering bringing him back for a recurring part, and so
thank God they didn't.
They ended up not doing that.
No, instead he was on the Power Rangers. And so, what was I going to say? My best moment. I really like that moment where Odo and Cisco in his office, and Odo is incriminating himself. Like, you shouldn't believe me. We've only just met. Like, I like that moment of, you know, flippant. Kind of like the most interesting point about Odo's character is to point out to his commander that, no, you don't know me. You should suspect me. Like, this is, you know, if you want to lead this investigation without me, you need to suspect me. So, like, that, I quite like that little speech. I thought that was quite good.
I'm proud of the four of us for not taking the low-hanging fruit of saying the Quark-Odo relationship, because that's what everyone says.
Yeah,
so
we got more of that
also
to
you
come.
don't get enough of it. So.
Yeah.
Good job to us.
Okay.
I mean, you do get the Armin Shimmerman troll face, which he holds for like 5 seconds at the camera. So.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, Stars, give us a rating, please.
All right, gentlemen. How many grilled cheese sandwich masseuse hands out of 10 would you like to give it?
Dude, you're going to turn me off to that delicious food for a long time.
I'm so glad you did not go Bajoran shoes flung at Odo's door, because there's nothing that
George
tops grilled
W.
cheese fingers.
Cisco.
For the people who have not seen the episode, who weren't here for our watch along, go and watch the scene where Irudan is murdered. The hands on that alien are not good. They are not the kind of hands.
Tasty.
They're slightly golden brown, and they got a few flavors of cheese in them. They look like anyway.
All right,
Not a great look.
Stars, give us your rating, please.
Dude, this is like a 2 out of 10. This is like 2 grilled cheese sandwich masseuse hands. There's so little to redeem about this. This is like a lot of season 1 of DS9. I feel like is like it goes between like to good. Like, you know, Duet and Emissary are like obviously the high points. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 I'm forgetting to mention as well. And then there's a few ones that I just don't remember. And then there's this shit.
The ones you wish you didn't remember.
There's the ones that I don't remember, and I'm glad for it. There's this shit. There's The Passenger, which we're going to be getting to.
I can't wait.
Yeah, no, but it's like, these are the ones where it's like, wow, you are lucky you kept on going, because this is just the reheated... This is what bad Voyager ended up being like, and I'm glad that DS9 for the most part dodged it, but early season 1 DS9 is a little rougher than I remember.
Frank?
In a bubble, I'm gonna say I give this 3.9 gooey grilled cheese fingers out of 10. If it were not in a bubble and I took the entirety of DS9 and my knowledge of it into account, I would at least give it some merit for I know where these things are going. I see the beginning of these relationships. I see the seeds planted for stuff, and it'll get better. They're just going through the motions. Can't do that. Have to look at it as this is the first episode I've ever seen of Star Trek, and I go, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some good and some stuff to laugh about. But if I turned on the TV to the All Trek channel and this came up, I'd probably mute it and walk out of the room and occasionally look up and go, "Oh yeah, oh well."
This is the kind of episode that literally means you have to tell people give it a few episodes. This is the kind of episode that means you have to say that.
Auto.
So I keep mentally reviewing that, and every time I think about it, the score lowers. And I'm like, am I being too harsh? I'm like, no, I'm not being harsh enough. This is terrible. Yeah, so if we're going 1 to 10, 1 being the minimum, this is a 2.6. And 0.1 of that is from Captain Sisko, and the other 1.5 is from, I'm not even saying this like for laughs, it's actually O'Brien and Keiko, their storyline, because it's relatable, and it's there's actually like a resolution at the end, which is typically Star Trek feel good type stuff, which I think a lot of us are happy to indulge. So yeah, like I can't believe Keiko carried an episode. So it was a bad episode. 2.6.
Nice.
I'll settle on 2.5 grilled cheese flavor massage hands out of I think this is worse than I remember, and I've watched it fairly recently, and I remember watching and going, that was an episode without, you know when you watch something you're not really paying attention, you go, yeah, that's
paying critical attention.
Exactly. And now kind of sitting around with you guys watching it and then kind of like critically looking at it, and this wasn't great. It fell apart all over the place with very few redeemable moments. The 0.5 is just there because I can't quite give it a 2, but I don't want to give it a 3.
I mean, there's some really bad Star Trek that you always think there's got to be worse ones out there that'll hold down the 1 slot, but this is pretty darn close.
Mm-hmm. It's well, we have rated it a 2.8 as an average overall, so well done us.
Too generous.
I think this is
my fault. Sorry.
I think this is our lowest rated DS9 episode so far, so be proud of yourselves.
Shockingly, like IMDb and other sites rate it like a 6.8 and stuff like that, which is like obviously there's.
You know what? That's old men who watch this to get like to fall asleep. That they're like, oh, greatest sleeping aid I've ever seen.
I feel seen.
And on that note, we will see you. Go on.
Most of those ratings, they don't utilize the whole 10. Like if 6 is like the minimum in a lot of cases, especially for video games. If you get like an 80, that's like the worst video game of all time. So we're utilizing the whole scale.
Oh, damn right, yeah, we're going the whole way around. Right. One day we'll get a 5. What do you reckon is a 5 episode?
All I know is like when we do these, I know we're going to go late on a terrible episode ever. When we do these, I always think of like if they do some component particularly bad, and I think, they could improve that. I always come back to the next phase of TNG. I'm like, they did that really well. And now I'm like working myself up to, we need to skip ahead and do that one. So I can like blush about how great an episode that is all around. So
you just want to get to
I know
the
that's
shit.
not a 5 or anything, but I just keep thinking about it. So we got to pull it up sooner or later.
We'll do some theme. We'll do some themes. I think we'll do some themed series.
There's some Voyager episodes that I think are like perfect 5s.
Dude, right now we're going through all the season 1s, and it's only going to get better from here. But we might need a reprieve.
But it is the most entertaining to watch with you guys. So I'm thoroughly. You say Vantika Bashir, you're like dreading it. I'm thoroughly loving it because I know we're going to laugh our arse off.
That day.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we will be back in a couple of weeks with the next Star Trek. As always, check the Discord. Come and join us on Twitch, on YouTube, wherever you're watching this. We will see you soon. Ta-ra!